I don't know about you, but I'm planning to hold on tight and ride XRP all the way up. Now, just to be clear, I'm not saying I'm going to try to sell at the exact top because let's be honest, that's nearly impossible. Trying to nail the absolute peak of the market is just not realistic. That said, there are things we can look at and analyze to get a pretty good idea when we're nearing the end of the cycle. And that's the plan. I'm going to enjoy the ride and stick with my strategy for scaling out of my position carefully. The top will come eventually, and as a community, we'll get there together. In the meantime, I want to chat about a few things we should all be keeping an eye on. These are the signals I'll be watching and sharing with you here, so we'll have some signs as the market cycle starts hitting its peak. Trust me, you'll want to be caught off guard when that moment arrives. Let's talk about a few key things we'll be keeping an eye on to make sure we don't get caught off guard. The truth is, no one can perfectly predict where the top is. No one. It's just not something anyone can do consistently. Sure, sometimes analysts make a lucky guess and get it right, but that's not the norm. That said, there are certain patterns and metrics that show up in every single cycle. By paying attention to these, you can get a pretty good sense of when things are starting to look risky, like it might be time to rethink holding on to certain cryptocurrencies. In this latest Moon Lambo update, I'm sharing insights from 7 different XRP chart analysts. Some of them think there's still a decent chance we might see a dip before XRP moves higher. They predict that XRP could drop below $2 before climbing back above $3, and they emphasize this wouldn't just be an XRP thing, but more of a market-wide trend. Now, here's the good news. Even the analysts who think this dip is possible are confident that XRP is still on its way to entering price discovery and, as I like to say, melting faces. Before we dive deeper, just a quick reminder, I'm not a financial expert, and this isn't financial advice. Always make your own decisions before buying or selling anything. As I'm recording this, it's Thursday, June 19th, 2025. XRP is sitting at $2.17, and Bitcoin's at $4,426. We're just ranging right now, more sideways action, but trust me, we're not staying here forever, that's for sure. Now, I've seen some analysts out there claiming that the top of the cycle is already in. Do I think they could be right? Honestly, I'd put the chances at 0, but let's dive into some real top indicators, shall we? Of course we can. It's my channel after all, and I get to call the shots. Let's break it all down. Check this out. I shared something earlier today on X that I think you'll find interesting. I talked about one of the metrics I'm keeping an eye on to gauge when we might be nearing the top of this market cycle. It's called NUPL, which stands for net unrealized profit / loss. Basically, it shows what percentage of Bitcoin's market cap is currently in profit. Right now, that number is sitting at about 55%. When it gets closer to 75%, that's when I'll start to feel a little cautious. Now, I get that not everyone here is into Bitcoin, and that's totally fine. Honestly, while Bitcoin is one of my bigger holdings, I'm much more excited about my altcoins. I don't think Bitcoin has a ton of room left to grow, though we'll probably see one final parabolic surge. For me, the real wealth I'm hoping to build this market cycle is coming from XRP and altcoins. Still, fun fact, Bitcoin will probably peak before XRP does. So if you're following the markets like I am, this is definitely something to keep in mind. I'm pretty confident Bitcoin is going to hit its peak before anything else. So that's where our focus should be right now. Of course, we'll keep an eye on XRP as we go, but the plan is simple. Once Bitcoin starts showing signs it's entering the danger zone, the point where it historically signals a top, we'll know there's not much time left for XRP to make its moves either. One step at a time though. First, let's focus on Bitcoin. So here's what I found out. Right now, Bitcoin's NUPL, net unrealized profit / loss, is sitting at 55%. When it starts creeping closer to 75%, that's when I'll start paying closer attention. Why? Well, when Bitcoin goes on a big price rally, tons of people end up sitting on unrealized profits, and naturally they'll want to cash out. If Bitcoin goes truly parabolic, it's going to tempt a lot of folks to sell and lock in those gains. NUPL doesn't pinpoint the exact market peak, but historically it's been an excellent indicator of when we're getting close. Alt season can definitely continue even after Bitcoin peaks. That's what I'm expecting anyway. So I hopped onto ChatGPT and had it generate some helpful visuals. Here's what I've been looking at. It's a cheat sheet for understanding Bitcoin's NUPL / metric. It breaks down the different ranges and what they usually say about market sentiment and where we are in the cycle. Pretty cool, right? This is just one of the many metrics I'm keeping an eye on. Tracking these kinds of things really helps lower the chances of holding on to crypto for too long. Trust me, you don't want to get caught off guard and miss out on what could be Life-changing opportunities. As we get closer to the end of the cycle, I'll be shouting it from the rooftops. You won't miss it. Let's talk about where we are in the current market cycle. It feels pretty clear to me, and I've said this before, but even Chat GPT agrees, calling it a late bull cycle. Right now, Bitcoin's NUPL/net sitting at 55%, which is a strong indicator we're in the late stages of a bull market. At this point, most holders are in profit and the market is heating up. But that's pretty spot on. But what happens when NUPL hits 75% or higher? That's when we enter the euphoria phase of cycle top zone. At this stage, risk is at its peak. Most holders are sitting on big profits, and the chances of hitting a market top are very high. To help you prepare, let me give you some historical context. This metric is crucial for staying ahead of the game and avoiding any surprises. Paying attention to it can help you time your decisions, like selling your XRP, so you're not caught off guard when the market shifts. Let's talk about the 4 main peaks where Bitcoin's market got way too hot. You can see them right here on the screen. Every single time this metric has consistently signaled when things were getting overheated. It was like a warning bell for each instance in Bitcoin's history. And honestly, I don't think this time is going to be any different. And that's why I believe we haven't seen the best this market cycle has to offer yet. It's not over. Are we really supposed to believe that for the first time ever, the NUPL doesn't show any overheating, that things just stay flat, no rotation, no alt season? I don't buy it. The idea that this cycle will suddenly break all trends feels a bit ridiculous to me. Humans tend to behave pretty consistently across market cycles, and I think this time will be no exception. For example, in 2021, the peak hit 0.88% or 78%, just to clarify. So all signs point to this market still having more to offer. Back in 2017, we saw an 87% bull run, similar to 2013 at 88% and 2011 at 87%. But the 2021 cycle was different. The NUPL, net unrealized profit/loss, peaked at a lower level around 78%. The general thought was that it was because of lower demand, but that's not the full story. It was actually due to the shift toward institutional investors. Here's the thing: institutions and retail investors approach risk very differently. Retail investors might be more willing to hold on longer and take bigger risks, while institutions are likely to cash out earlier for safety. And honestly, that's completely fine. It's just a different strategy. For me, though, it makes me a little uneasy as we approach those higher levels, even before we get to 75%. If we hit 70% or somewhere in the low 70s, I'll definitely be keeping an eye on it. It's worth noting that we don't have to hit 75%. It could peak a bit lower this time. Here's the good news: we're not there yet. And honestly, I don't think this time is going to be any different. Let me break it down for you so it's easy to follow. Take Bitcoin as an example. Let's say its market cap is 2 trillion and the realized cap, which is basically what people actually paid for their Bitcoin, is 500 billion. To calculate this, you just subtract the realized cap, 500 billion, from the market cap, 2 trillion. That leaves us with 1.5 trillion. So what's that 1.5 trillion? That's the unrealized profit in the market cap. Here's the deal: you can figure out the percentage by dividing the market cap by that number, and guess what? You get 75%. That's huge. We're talking 1.5 trillion in unrealized profits. That's massive. And let's be real, once it gets that high, people are definitely going to start cashing out. One person starts, then another, and before you know it, it triggers a domino effect, leading to a market dump. That's the reality we're looking at. This is why it's so important to stay cautious as we inch closer to that 75% level. We'll probably get pretty close, so keep an eye on things and tread carefully. Another key signal to watch for: M2. I know I've been bringing this up a lot, but it's because it's super important. This is a big deal if you want to get a sense of where the crypto markets are heading. Are we moving up, heading down? It all comes back to global M2, basically liquidity. It sets the stage, and Bitcoin, altcoins, and even equities just follow its lead. So CryptoSath shared this post, and here's what he said. M2 global money supply drives the movement of global equities. The connection between M2, Bitcoin, and altcoins is still strong. Sure, there are deviations here and there due to major global events like wars or pandemics, but overall, it's just statistics. Basically, Bitcoin tends to follow M2, and he's right. Bitcoin usually moves in the same direction as M2 about 90% of the time. That figure comes from the brilliant folks at GMI, Global Macro Investor, like Raoul Pal, Julian Biddle, and Jamie Coots. These guys are sharp, data-driven, and honestly, I'm a huge fan of their work. I've learned so much from them, and I love passing along those insights whenever I can. This stuff is not only fascinating, but also Here's what I think you'll notice as we get closer to the top. Global M2 liquidity is going to peak, then stall, and eventually start to drop. It's a clear signal. And here's the interesting part. Bitcoin tends to follow the same pattern as M2, just with a 12-week lag. Why? Well, it takes time. When people, businesses, and institutions have extra money, they don't allocate it immediately. There's usually a delay, about 10 to 12 weeks, give or take. That's just how it works. As we reach that point, it'll be another key indicator to watch. And of course, any good chart analyst will be pulling up a variety of metrics to highlight what's happening. Things like, hey, everyone, this metric is signaling something big, or this is what happened the last time the cycle peaked. They'll use tools as simple as the relative strength index and more. Basically, every analyst worth their salt will be diving into these details. The good news, I'll be streaming all of this for you on the channel, so you'll stay in the loop. Here's what's exciting. We can finally expect a massive blow off top for XRP. Let's break it all down together, even if it happens to dip first, which, let's be honest, is always possible. I won't pretend to know for sure if it will, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. Casey Trades just shared an update on the XRP USD chart, and things are getting interesting. The market's officially out of time, and after months of tightening, XRP's consolidation has finally hit its apex. Big moves are coming next. There are two possible paths from here. Either we get the explosive breakout we've all been waiting for, or we see one last sharp drop to support before the big rally kicks off. That drop could take us closer to the $2 level or even slightly below before setting us up for a strong run. Honestly, it's tough to predict exactly which way it'll go, but either way, it looks like exciting times are ahead for XRP. Something big is going to happen soon, one way or another. A lot of analysts believe we're about to see a major rally to the upside, but others think we might dip a bit before taking off. Honestly, I'm not sure who's got it right, but one thing's for sure, everyone agrees that XRP has huge potential and it's not going to fizzle out quietly. And it's all about perspective. Different analysts have different takes because of how they interpret the current chart patterns. There's definitely a case for a dip before the big move, and no one's ruling that out. In fact, if it happens, it'd be totally normal and nothing to panic over, which is why the analysts I follow are staying calm and focused no matter what. So anyway, here's the deal. Price is still struggling with that $2.25 level I've been talking about forever. As long as this stays as resistance, there's a good chance we'll see a dip to the lower levels. $2, 1 cent, $1.90, and even $1.55 are all still possibilities. But don't panic. These aren't bearish targets. They're momentum zones. Think of them as places where the market scoops up the liquidity it needs to get enough energy for a wave 3 move. What makes this moment especially interesting is the timing. It's midweek, Wednesday. And you know what that means. Sentiment tends to shift around this time. Oh, and yeah, she actually posted this yesterday, so keep that in mind. We've seen this play out so many times right at the end of a consolidation phase. There's often a sharp fake out that catches everyone off guard, only to recover by macro close and leave most people behind. And with rising global tensions, this isn't just about technicals anymore. It's the bigger picture coming together. Sentiment, structure, timing, even global headlines, they're all aligning. Take a step back and zoom out to the daily chart. You'll notice the RSI has formed a clear pattern, almost like a guide for how this squeeze might end. Don't overlook what's coming next. There's also broad recognition across the board, and I've talked about this in so many videos on price action. XRP is at a tipping point. We're at that moment where something big has to happen. XRP can't just hover around this price range forever. Something's coming. This is just a matter of when. Back in 2024, I kept saying the same thing over and over, and for good reason. XRP was clearly reaching the end of its roughly 7-year consolidation, which, by the way, was the longest consolidation in crypto history. It was pretty obvious something big was coming. We didn't know exactly when it would take off, but we knew it would. And wow, did it ever. Now, here we are again, and I'm seeing something similar happening. This time is on a smaller time scale, so we might need to be a bit more patient. We'll see how things play out. But here's the thing. If you look at the last 2 cycles, like I've been saying, there was always one big spike where XRP's price jumped, followed by about 6 months of consolidation. Then came the second leg up, which wrapped up the cycle. If history is any guide, we're getting pretty close to that point now, right? We're basically there. Of course, it might not happen exactly the same way, but history does have a funny way of repeating itself. Crypto Insight UK recently shared some interesting thoughts on Ethereum and XRP liquidity. According to them, the chart seemed to suggest an upward move first, but XRP and Ethereum tell a different story. They're confident we'll eventually see double-digit price action for XRP, something they've mentioned multiple times before. In this market cycle, they predict a peak somewhere between $20 to $30. Exciting, right? However, in the short term, they believe XRP could dip below $2, even if it's just for a brief moment. And this isn't just about XRP. If it happens, it's likely to be part of a broader market trend. Check out this update from Crypto Insight UK. It's an interesting take on Bitcoin liquidity. He points out that we're seeing more liquidity building above us, but over the last 18 hours, a red pocket of liquidity has formed below. You'll also notice that 92K to 95K is adding liquidity. This signals that people think the bottom is in and are going long. That's typically where liquidations or stop outs happen. Personally, I'm hoping we see a dip first before moving up. If that happens, it could mean an exciting, aggressive move to the upside. Let's start with the highs. If we do, it might leave me a bit unsure about what's coming next. Basically, it would clear out everyone who needs to be cleared out if we drop down for one final sweep of the lows. After that, he'd feel more confident, but if we don't drop from here, things might not feel as clear, which is totally fair. Honestly, he's okay with that approach and even prefers it. He believes it could set the stage for an epic bull run. Check this out. Chart analyst xpunky has been pointing out a fractal from 2017 the XRP has been closely following since April. According to them, we could be on the verge of a massive expansion across the entire crypto market soon. Their advice: stop getting caught up in all the narratives and focus on the charts. The setup is looking super bullish, and they're predicting XRP could hit $13 to $15 in the near future. What's even cooler is that this lines up with ideas from other analysts, not just about XRP, but the market in general. Doesn't it feel like the timing is starting to align perfectly? It's exciting to see all these pieces coming together. And who knows, XRP hitting $13 to $15 might not be that far off. I'm not sure if it will happen, and I'm not in the business of making price predictions, but honestly, it feels like it could be possible. I don't think that's an unrealistic expectation at all. Maybe we'll hit it, maybe we won't. But hey, this is crypto we're talking about, and crazy things happen all the time. As for XRP, I definitely don't think it's done yet. In fact, I believe its second pump this cycle could be even more impressive than the first, especially when it comes to the dollar value it could add. Here's an interesting update from chart analyst Zoom. He's pointing out that XRP's Bollinger Bands are tightening, and if you've been following this, you know what that usually means. I've been talking about this too, and several analysts have been highlighting it over the past few days. Tightening like this is exactly what signaled XRP's first big breakout back in November 2024. So here we are again, my friends. And this is why I keep saying nearly every XRP chart analyst I follow, and there are a lot, seems to agree that we're at a pivotal moment. While they might not all say the exact same thing, the consensus is clear. Something big could be on the horizon. Now, whether that means a dip first or we shoot straight up, it's hard to say, but one thing is certain: change is coming. Here's a post from chart analyst World of Charts about XRP. They're saying XRP is looking really solid, well, almost ready for a strong recovery. But here's the thing: a breakout hasn't been confirmed yet. So keep that in mind, folks. Nothing's set in stone just yet. If XRP manages to break through both the descending trend line and the horizontal resistance area, we could see it making a move toward $3.40, which is close to its all-time high. It's exciting, right? Another analyst is also hinting that something big could be brewing here. We're kind of in that wait and see moment, but it feels like something could be on the horizon. Just keep watching. Things are getting interesting. Here's an update from chart analyst X-Force Global on the XRP/USD chart. The macro direction for XRP has played out with impressive accuracy so far. From the wave 4 triangle breakout to the expected 1-2 pullback after the 5-wave impulse, everything has unfolded as anticipated. There's really no reason to lean bearish unless the market gives us a clear signal to invalidate the bullish case. It's all about context here, and right now we're still within the same two scenarios. That said, the dotted path, the ultra bullish scenario, is looking more and more credible each day. There's an analyst out there who thinks we might actually see XRP take off and hit double digits pretty quickly, maybe even this month or in July, as shown in this chart. And guess what? He's not the only one saying it. Other analysts have also been talking about the potential for some serious price action in the very near future. I get why they're saying this, even though no one can perfectly predict timing. Let's be real, that's always a tough call. But if you look at historical trends and how things have played out in the past, It's not completely out there to think XRP could move this fast. Now, does that mean it's 100% going to happen? Of course not. But the idea of XRP gaining momentum and rising sharply isn't so far-fetched. It's definitely within the realm of possibility. Here's an interesting post from chart analyst The Great Matsby, sharing insights on the XRP BTC chart. According to him, the XRP BTC pair isn't losing momentum. On the monthly chart, it's showing a breakout and backtest of the conversion and baseline, gearing up to push through the cloud and potentially outperform Bitcoin. Exciting stuff. As I mentioned before, it's awesome to see XRP outperforming Bitcoin recently. Looking back, when XRP was at historic lows around where I'm pointing on the chart, many skeptics were quick to call it a bad buy, urging people to sell it. But here we are now, proving that patience and perspective can pay off. So here's the thing. Historically, every time we've hit this range, it's been the lead up to a massive move upward. You can see it clearly in past cycles, like in 2017 and the cycle before that. It's pretty obvious. So when we found ourselves in this range for much of 2024, I was thinking, guys, no, this isn't a bad thing. These takes are way off. It's going to pop. And sure enough, it did. But here's the exciting part. It's not over yet. If you look at how high XRP has been priced against Bitcoin in previous cycles, it's clear there's still room to run. Last cycle, it didn't reach those levels because of the government's lawsuit against Ripple, which obviously held things back. But this time, that's not an issue anymore. So seeing XRP climb back into that higher range wouldn't surprise me at all. In fact, we could even hit a new all-time high for XRP against Bitcoin. And you can imagine what that would mean for the XRP/USD pair. It could be absolutely insane. So many people are on the verge of experiencing life-changing wealth. It's honestly incredible to think about. And if our suspicions about where this is all heading turn out to be right, and yeah, that still needs to be proven, it's going to be absolutely wild. Seriously, just imagine how exciting this could be for so many people. As an XRP holder, I can't help but feel optimistic. Even if prices dipped lower first, I'm not going to panic. It's all part of the journey. Quick reminder though, I'm not a financial advisor, so please don't make any decisions to buy or sell based solely on what I say here. Always do your own research.